Because the kind of compassion we're talking about tonight is not just a Hallmark card kind of compassion. Compassion can also not only upset the apple cart, it can totally obliterate the apple cart. But the final story, Mildred. Now, back in the day, a lot of people would drive by Mildred in Brownsburg. Yeah, they called her the bag lady of Brownsburg. And sometimes I would drive by too. I'd see her muttering and pushing a shopping cart, and nobody really knew who she was. Nobody stopped to talk to her, and she just kind of disappeared. Well, one day I saw Mildred enough. I was in a coffee shop right across the street from where she lived, and she was sitting in the corner drinking some hot chocolate. And I decided to walk up to her. I asked her for permission to sit down. She kind of muttered and said, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. I found out later she always said that, uh-huh, uh-huh. So I don't know if she really wanted me to sit down or not, but I did. Not a lot of conversation taking place, but after 2 or 3 and 4 times, she started to talk a little bit. I got a dear friend of mine who has a compassionate heart involved in this too. We started meeting with Mildred, and very slowly her face started to rise up a bit, and then she started to talk a little bit, always with a stutter. Rarely was she doing a uh-huh, uh-huh. Then my friend's book study group adopted her, and they started taking her to church activities and book study groups. The senior pastor who I was working for in Brownsburg ended up becoming a legal guardian of Mildred. We were then invited into Mildred's home, and that's when he found out Mildred had a brother named Paul, who nobody ever saw. He was wheelchair bound. He never got out of the house. These people dropped through the safety net in society. Nobody gave him the time of day. But by the time we got into that house, we cleaned the house. I remember about 9 months into this journey, Mildred was so excited and so appreciative, and she said, "Richard, I baked you a chocolate pie." She handed it to me, and it was sloshing around, and I looked at it, and I go, "Yum, I'll eat that later, Mildred, but thank you, sweetie." Fast forward to a year later. It's homecoming time. Homecoming is a big deal in suburbs like Brownsburg. Got the fire truck, got the convertibles, got the candy being thrown by the football players. My kids who were younger then, we used to fight over Tootsie Rolls. And I would see the homecoming queens and homecoming princesses and the homecoming king cars, and some football players tossed a whole handful of Tootsie Rolls out on a corner. I remember that corner in Brownsburg to this day. I playfully dove to try to fight over the Tootsie Rolls, and I'm down like this, and I look up out of the corner of my eye, and on this convertible passing by me was the name of the assisted living where Mildred lived. I said, "Assisted living? They had a queen contest?" And I looked up even farther, and it was Mildred. She was a homecoming queen. I watched her change and transform over a period of a year simply because of love and compassion. There wasn't any therapy. People just loved her for who she was. And there she was in all her glory with an awkward wave and the crown trying to hop off of her head. And when I was down there on one knee and I'm looking at that, and Spirit speaks to me, and Spirit says, "I'll love you if" produces problems, but "I'll love you no matter what" produces prophets and kings, and yeah, even homecoming queens. I'll never forget that. And then I remember tears rolling down my face because I looked around to the crowd and people were applauding and said, "Oh, isn't that cute?" And I knew every one of those people had no clue who that lady was. She was a lady a year prior they would drive by and call her a bag lady. And that opened up into me the heart of a prophet. So now we go back to the rabbi story. I totally believe, and I'm living my life, that one day, if we choose to walk our talk, if we choose to open up our hearts a little bit to the heart of a priest, that's that compassion and love and generosity, the heart of a warrior that says, "Hell no, not on my watch." And if we open up our hearts to be the heart of a prophet, not just looking at the circumstances that they are, but pointing a vision that's much bolder, much kinder, much grander for all of humanity, then I really believe this, then we can all say one day that, you know what? The night is finally over, and thank God the day has come. Thank you very much.
Wow.